Welcome, dear brothers and sisters. Have you ever found yourself in a situation during prayer where you suddenly feel like your wudu is broken, maybe because air was released? What should you do? Is it okay to continue with your prayer, or do you need to stop and start over? If this has happened to you, or if you're worried about it happening in the future, then this video is exactly what you need. In today's video, we'll be diving deep into this common but often misunderstood topic. What does Islam say about this situation? What steps should you take if you release air during prayer? Can embarrassment stop you from following the rules? And most importantly, what does this mean for the purity of your prayer? By the end of this video, you'll have clear guidance and practical steps on how to deal with this issue, so you can pray with confidence and peace of mind. Let's get into it. The importance of Salah in Islam. Salah, the Islamic prayer, is not just a ritual, it is a direct connection between the servant and Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth. Prayer is the central act of worship, and it is performed 5 times a day by every Muslim. Allah Himself commanded us in the Quran, "Establish the prayer and give zakah." 2:43. This shows us how essential it is to maintain our prayer and to perform it with the highest standards of purity, both physically and spiritually. When we stand for prayer, we are not just following a series of actions like bowing and prostrating, we are presenting ourselves before Allah, the Almighty. The key is to ensure that our hearts are focused on Allah, and our minds are free from distractions. Allah doesn't need our physical gestures, but He looks at the purity of our hearts. This is why we must understand the rules, guidelines, and etiquettes of prayer, as they shape the way we stand before Allah. The prerequisites for prayer, purity is key. Before performing Salah, there are specific prerequisites that must be met to ensure that the prayer is valid and accepted by Allah. One of the most important prerequisites is wudu, ablution. This is a purification process that involves washing certain body parts to cleanse ourselves physically before standing in the presence of Allah. Wudu is not just a physical act, but also a spiritual one. It prepares us mentally and spiritually for the sacred act of prayer. The process includes washing the hands, mouth, nose, face, arms, wiping the head, and washing the feet. If any part of this process is missed or invalid, the wudu is incomplete, and so is the prayer. Once we complete wudu, we are ready to stand on the prayer mat, with our minds focused and hearts sincere, to perform the Salah. What happens if wudu is broken during prayer? Now, let's get to the main question. What should you do if your wudu breaks during prayer? Wudu can be broken in various ways, including the release of air, passing gas, urination, defecation, deep sleep, or even bleeding. If any of these things occur during prayer, the wudu is considered invalid, and the prayer is no longer valid either. If someone feels that they have passed gas or experienced any other form of impurity during the prayer, it is important to stop immediately and exit the prayer. Continuing with prayer while in an impure state would render it invalid. But here's the question, what if you're in the middle of the prayer, and you suddenly feel that you've broken your wudu? Should you leave, or can you just continue and finish it? The answer to this is crucial. The etiquette in case of air release during prayer. It is natural for people to feel embarrassed or hesitant to leave the prayer immediately. After all, leaving the prayer midway could cause attention or embarrassment, especially if you're in a group. But Islam provides clear guidance on how to handle such situations. There is a famous story from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, about a similar situation. It happened during Ramadan when 3 people were performing tarawih prayers together in a small room. One of them accidentally released air, and the smell spread throughout the room. Out of embarrassment, the person continued with the prayer, hoping that no one would notice. However, according to the teachings of Islam, this was not the correct approach. The person should have immediately left the prayer, performed wudu, and then rejoined the prayer after purifying themselves. This story highlights an important point. When wudu is broken, you must leave the prayer, purify yourself, and then return. Embarrassment should not prevent you from adhering to the teachings of Islam. What does Islam teach about leaving the prayer when wudu is broken? Islam teaches that when wudu is broken, the person should stop the prayer immediately. This is based on the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, who said, "When someone breaks their wudu, they must leave the prayer, perform wudu again, and then return to continue the prayer. They should not talk to anyone and should just focus on purifying themselves before rejoining the prayer. Sahih Muslim. In this case, there is no option to continue the prayer. Continuing while in an impure state would be like offering a sacrifice without being in a state of purification, which would not be accepted. How to exit the prayer discreetly if you feel embarrassed. Now, we understand that leaving the prayer in the middle can be uncomfortable or embarrassing. But there is a solution, especially for those who feel that their departure will draw attention. Scholars have provided a method that allows a person to leave the prayer discreetly without feeling ashamed. If you are in a congregation and feel that your wudu has broken, you can place your hand on your nose as if you are experiencing a nosebleed. This is a subtle way of signaling that you need to leave the prayer, as blood from the nose also breaks wudu. Other members of the congregation will not know the real reason for your departure, and you can avoid the embarrassment of others noticing that your wudu is broken. This method ensures that your dignity remains intact, and you can perform the necessary actions to purify yourself and return to the prayer. What about frequent air release or chronic conditions? Another important question that arises is, what should someone do if they have a condition that causes them to frequently release air or experience other forms of impurity like urinary incontinence or constant nosebleeds? Islam recognizes that certain individuals may have medical conditions that make it difficult to maintain continuous purity. For such individuals, Islam provides exceptions. If someone experiences frequent air release, leakage, or other continuous conditions, they are allowed to perform fresh wudu for each prayer time. The concept of mazur, excused person. In such cases, the person is considered mazur, which means excused. As long as they perform wudu at the beginning of each prayer time, they can continue with their prayer, even if they experience air release during it. This allows them to maintain their connection with Allah without being burdened by their condition. For someone with an ongoing medical issue, they do not need to repeat wudu after each incident during the prayer, as long as they perform the fresh wudu at the beginning of the prayer time. Conclusion: maintaining purity and sincerity in prayer. To conclude, maintaining purity and sincerity in prayer is crucial to making our worship meaningful and accepted by Allah. Islam has provided clear guidelines for what to do if wudu is broken during prayer, whether by air release, bleeding, or any other means. It's important to remember that embarrassment should not stop us from following these rules. By leaving the prayer to purify ourselves and then returning, we ensure that our connection with Allah remains pure and uninterrupted. May Allah accept our efforts, grant us purity in our worship, and guide us on the straight path. Remember, if you ever feel uncertain about any aspect of prayer, turn to the teachings of Islam, and you will find clarity. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content on Islamic teachings and how they guide us in our daily lives.